So today's talk is to continue or to complement other talks that we were given in the past concerning the identification of the USA with Israel. The identification of the USA with Israel. So one of the objections that we get is I met people who are interested, who part of the church that they belong to also believes in lost and tribes are to be found in America and amongst Western peoples. But they raise the objection that America today is composed of many different peoples. Statistically, there are probably more Latinos, more people from Spanish-speaking countries than there are from European countries, whereas our explanation traces the lost in tribes to Europe and from there to America. Also in America, you have a lot of African Americans, you have a lot of Asians now, you have a lot of people from all over the world, and a lot of them are mixed up, intermarried with each other, and intermerged with each other. It's difficult to distinguish between them or divide between them conceptually, to discriminate between one another. So what we say, according to the Bible, according to biblical sources, the lost ten tribes are amongst Western nations, and this is supported by other evidence from linguistics, from history, from mythology, from numerous fields of study at all points in the same direction. Also the Bible, as we said, and also rabbinical sources also confirm this. Taking all these different sources all together, you have one composite picture. That allows us to draw this conclusion. So how do you say other peoples are also there? So they may be. So maybe the Bible is referring to the dominating element in those nations, or maybe from the other peoples, also from the 10 tribes, or portion of them are, or they are going to be considered as part of the 10 tribes, or different, or something will happen in the end times we don't know. Okay? We just go according to what we know, what we understand. The Bible and says that lost and tribes are amongst Western nations, especially the English-speaking peoples, as applied to Joseph, the tribes of Joseph, Brit-Am, and Manasseh. That is where the lost and tribes are, and that is who we identify the lost and tribes as. Other questions, we can let things work themselves out, and the Almighty will help us. And also, according to tradition, the Machir, Messiah, son of Joseph, will come, and he will tell each and every person, enable each and every person to know which tribe they belong to. And this tribe allocation will be confirmed by the Messiah, son of David, who will come sometime afterwards. And whatever this means, time will tell. At all events, the Bible tells us, especially lost 10 tribes in those areas, and that is what we'll speak about in the present talk. And we'll talk about America. So, first of all, lost 10 tribes were exiled by the Assyrians. The lost 10 tribes were originally in the land of Israel, the greater land of Israel, stretching from the Nile to the Euphrates, so all over that area. When they came out of Egypt, the lost 10 tribes were descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel. They went down into Egypt. In Egypt they were subjected by the Egyptians, and then Moses brought them up out of Egypt, and they traveled through the wilderness. In the wilderness they received the Torah, and then they entered the land of Canaan, and under Joshua they conquered the land of Canaan, and they had kings. There were 12 tribes of them, actually 13 tribes, as we should explain, but the Bible maintains a quorum of 12 tribes. 12 tribes conquered the land of Israel, and the land of Canaan, as it was then known, and divided up amongst them. And they were there, and they were ruled over by kings. The first king was King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. Then came King David from the tribe of Judah. After King David came King Solomon. King Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. His father David had made Jerusalem the capital of all Israel, and Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. In the time of King Solomon and King Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, 10 of the northern tribes seceded, and they set up their own kingdom in the north, which that comprised 10 tribes, the 10 northern tribes, or the 10 separate tribes. They were conquered by the Assyrians, taken away into captivity, and lost consciousness of their ancestry, and also they were lost to others. No one knows where they went to, but they existed. Physically they existed. Physically they stayed together, and they can be traced. And we trace them through different archaeological findings and linguistic findings, mythology. Numerous sources all come together to show that these 10 tribes eventually went to Western Europe, Western and Northern Europe. And within these tribes, these elements, we find that the tribes more or less stayed together, and that even when they did not stay together, they have broken up into smaller entities comprised of tribal clans as found in the Bible, similar to those found in the Bible, relating to the tribes, and through the names of these clans we can also relate peoples to the tribes of Israel. We find different tribes coalescing, converging in the same areas. For instance, people known as the Danes, or from Dan, according to their own tradition, we can associate them with the tribe of Dan. That is quite simple. Some of the other associations are not so simple, but they all exist. They're all feasible. We had also the Davidiy from Gilead that we find in France and the British Isles. Davidiy, also known as Davidiy. And so these associations are sometimes quite obvious. And no matter what, we find a domination. We find that Britain was dominated by groups from all the tribes, not all, from most of the tribes. A good portion of the tribes came to the British Isles, especially the groups from Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim and Manasseh were the 2 tribes of Joseph. Joseph was divided into 2 tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. We find them to be dominant in the British Isles. We find that the early settlers of the USA was founded by Britain, from Britain. The early settlers of the USA came overwhelmingly from those parts of Britain that had been dominated from Manasseh. This is Calvin Keford, Races of Mankind, the Origin of Migration, 1960. He based on the statistics of the US Department of Labour and the assumption that 2/3 of the immigrants from England had such antecedents. He found from the west of England and from Wales, Scotland and Ireland. The United States of America received approximately 87% of its British immigrants in its formative period. That is, 87% of the early immigrants to the USA came from areas that we associated with Manasseh. So that is important. That is significant. Also in the area of Frisia, from the northern Netherlands and North Germany, adjoining the Netherlands in that area, we found the people known as Fransa Masane, from his meaning Manasseh, and we find that these people had invaded England, had joined up with the Angles and Saxons, invaded England, and East Anglia received, in the east of England, received a substantial immigration from this region, and they still contributed to the early population of America. So wherever you go, we have associations, possibilities of peoples from Manasseh were to dominate in America. Also, we find many German settlers to the USA in the 1700s, 1800s, just picked themselves up out of Germany, and they moved to the USA, moved to North America, and they came from areas from which descendants of Manasseh had sojourned, had been there, and these people were different from those who stayed behind. That is what the Germans themselves said. The German officials noted that themselves, that those leaving were different from those who had stayed behind. They're different even physically. They had different ideals, different politics, different attitudes. The Germans were often pleased to get rid of them. They were a different element altogether, and they represented the exodus of Israelites from that area to America, and they were driven as if by an unseen hand. Some of them were leaving because of for economic reasons, others for political reasons, others for different. Everyone had their personal reasons, but they all had this. One could say a type of inspiration that drove them all to pick themselves up as one body and to get on the ships and go to America. These were people from Israel separating themselves from the non-Israelites who remained in the area. So that is a point. Also, we have the principle, the name America. America is derived from Americo Vespucci, who was an Italian sailor who proved that the American continent is separate from Asia. Sometime not after when Christopher Columbus discovered America, they weren't certain whether the new area was attached to Asia, was separate or not. Americo Vespucci proved that it was separate. And America was named after him, and America, the name America, came from, derived from Americo, which was a name found in northern Italy and southern France, and it was derived from Hebrew origin, Machir ha-Machiri. Machir was the firstborn son of Manasseh. In the Bible we have the expression ha-Machiri, meaning the sons of Machir. But in Jewish writings of the 700s and so on, someone who was named Machir could also be nicknamed ha-Machiri. A diminutive it's called. In other words, that was a nickname in Hebrew. Machir was a name, and someone who had that name could sometimes be given a nickname, ha-Machiri in Hebrew. And ha-Machiri is Hebrew, and it's difficult for Europeans to pronounce it. So the Latin transmutations of the name of that time, they wrote it down as Americo, became Americo. And this name was taken up, was given to Americo Vespucci, and through him, America received its name. But we may say that indirectly America was named after Machir, or ha-Machiri, the sons of Machir, the firstborn son of Manasseh. So that we who believe in divine providence, we see this as fortunate, as showing the hand of providence in this. Nothing is by chance. Also, we have the principle of the name Manasseh. The name Manasseh in Hebrew, according to Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch in the 1800s, he said that the name Manasseh, or he may be understood to say that the name Manasseh in effect means responsible representation. Responsible representation, and he gives linguistic analysis of the Hebrew, of the roots of this name. So at all events, responsible representation is a guiding principle of the USA. The American Constitution is based upon responsible representation. An American Constitution, what is written in the American Constitution, is very, very important in American thought, American philosophy, and American political ideas. In their whole ideology is based on the Declaration of Independence, as if this has some type of sacred character for them, much more than the constitutions of other countries, because it reflects something of the American character, the character of Manasseh, and of responsible representation. We also have another principle that Ephraim and Manasseh were the sons of Joseph. Manasseh was born before Ephraim, but nevertheless Manasseh was to become great after Ephraim. See Genesis 48:19. He too shall be great. He too shall be great. And Manasseh will also be great. But Ephraim will come before, and that is what Jacob says in Genesis 48:19. This explanation of what is said there is also confirmed by biblical rabbinical commentators such as Bnei Yisachar in the 1700s, 1800s, and by the Malbim, early 1800s, and by others. And this is without any connection to our identifications. These people, it makes it even better. These people are given straightforward commentary according to what the Bible says. It says this and that, this is what it means. Without having America, without having the associations and the conclusions that we make in mind. just straightforward explanations of what the text says, and it says as we say it does. It confirms our identifications. Another point is the Nazir Rabbi Naphtali, as we heard of Berlin, 1893. He says that the material prosperity of Manasseh was to exceed that of Ephraim. Others mention these similar principles. Manasseh was to be bigger than Ephraim. So the concept of bigness is associated with Ephraim. The concept of bigness is also associated with America. And we have the prophecies. We have prophecies that Joseph, that the Israelites, but especially Joseph, including Manasseh, okay? Prophecies concerning the Israelites, but especially Joseph, according to the prophecies, according to the genealogy, the delineation of the prophecies as they may be understood by lining them up one after another. The prophecies concerning the fathers, so all of the Israelites, but especially Joseph, including Manasseh, were to become the greatest, the most powerful nations in the earth. See Numbers 24:7-9, Micah 5:7-9, Deuteronomy 33:27, 33:29, Jeremiah 5:20-21, Zechariah 10:7, and so on and more. And also most wealthy of all nations. Some of these verses we'll quote them in full later if we have time, but just giving you an outline of what we're talking about. And as we said, they were to become the most wealthy of all nations. See Genesis 27:28, 49:25, Deuteronomy 33:13-16, Hosea 2:8. They would also be extremely numerous. And more sources on that. Quite a lot of sources. The USA and the British peoples fulfilled all this role. They fulfilled all these prophecies. And the USA is still responsible for more than 1/4 of the world economic, 1/5 of the world economic output, 20%. Of all the world's economic output comes from the USA. That is without counting other countries. A good portion of what remains also comes from Israelite nations such as Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Scandinavia, France, Britain, and so on. The US defense expenditures, armies, air force and navy and so on taken together outweigh they're greater than the rest of the world combined. So we'll return to this. And with us in tribe, another point of interest that we noted, or that was noted by Rabbi Manasseh ben Israel, 1640s, he said the 10 tribes when they returned, they would come from America, return from America. It says, Isaiah 60, verse 9, surely the isles shall trust me, wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, and they shall come with seed from those countries, prostrate themselves at the mountain of the Lord of Jerusalem, and so on. As Hosea also says in Hosea chapter 11, they shall walk after the Lord, he will roar like a lion when he roars, and his son shall come trembling from the west, or from the sea. The word for sea, or for the word for west, is yam in Hebrew. They're the same word, so you can interpret it either from the west or from the sea, and in this case it means the same thing. And it says they shall come trembling like a bird from Egypt, like a dove from the land of Assyria. Not that like a dove from the land of Assyria. And I will let them dwell in their houses, says the Lord. So it says in Isaiah 60. Who are these who fly like a cloud, like an aeroplane? They will come in aeroplanes, like doves. See, doves all upon doves. Associating those who return with doves from the 10 tribes, like doves to their roosts. Surely the isles shall wait for me in the ships of Tarshish first. The ships of Tarshish means ships on the Atlantic Ocean. As the commentators explained, Tarshish was, historically there was a place called Tartessos, or Tarsis in the Phoenician, near the location of Gibraltar in our time. It was a powerful country, a trading country, and it was probably founded by people of Greek origin, and then the Phoenicians took over, then the Israelites ruled it for a while, and then the lost 10 tribes were associated with them when they sojourned in Spain. But beyond that, the whole of the ocean beyond Gibraltar was also named after them, both by the Greeks and by the Hebrews. So the ships of Tarshish mean ships flying the Atlantic Ocean. It says their silver and their gold with them for the name of the Lord thy God and the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. And he goes on.